They traveled by boat across the lake to the lonely mountain. The mountain looked dark and scary. No birds or animals lived near it. At the bottom of the mountain was the ruin of an old town called Dale. The dragon had destroyed Dale years ago. Now it was empty. They climbed up the mountain, looking for the secret door that Elrond had told them about. For days they searched. The mountain was huge. Finally, they found a flat area on the mountainside. It looked like there might be a door there, but they couldn't see it. They waited. According to the map, the door would only appear at a special time. On the right day, they watched the sun go down. As the last light of the sun hit the mountainside, they saw the outline of a door. But how could they open it? They pushed and pulled, but nothing happened. Then they remembered the riddle on the map. When the thrush knocks and the setting sun shines, the keyhole will be revealed. A thrush is a type of bird. Suddenly, an old thrush flew to the mountain wall. It knocked on the stone with its beak. The sound made a piece of stone fall away. Behind it was a keyhole. Thorin had an old key. He put it in the keyhole and turned it. The secret door opened. The secret door led to a tunnel. The tunnel went down into the mountain. At the end was the dragon's lair, a huge underground room full of gold and treasure. "You must go first, Bilbo," said Thorin. "You are our burglar." Bilbo was scared, but he put on his ring and became visible. He walked quietly down the tunnel. The dragon's lair was enormous. There were piles and piles of gold coins, jewels, cups, and weapons. Everything was shiny and beautiful. In the middle of it all lay Smaug the dragon. He was huge, bigger than a house. His skin was covered in red and gold scales. Even while sleeping, smoke came from his nose. Bilbo took just one gold cup and went back to the dwarves. "I did it," he whispered. "I stole from the dragon." But when Smaug woke up, he knew immediately that something was missing. Dragons know exactly how much treasure they have. "Who dares to steal from me?" Smaug roared. The dragon's roar shook the whole mountain. Smoke came out of the mountain and flew around it, breathing fire and looking for the thief. The dwarves and Bilbo hid in the tunnel and closed the secret door. Later, when Smoke went back inside, Bilbo went down again. This time, Smoke was awake. "I can smell you," said Smoke. "I can hear your breathing. Where are you, thief?" Bilbo was invisible, but he talked to the dragon. "I am the one who walks unseen," said Bilbo. "I come from under the hill, and over the hills my path led." Smaug was intelligent and cunning. He tried to trick Bilbo into saying too much. While talking to Smaug, Bilbo looked carefully at the dragon. He noticed that Smaug's skin was covered in hard scales like armor. But there was one place on Smaug's chest where there were no scales. That was the dragon's weak spot. Smaug became angry during their conversation. "I know your smell now," he said. "I will remember it. When I catch you, I'll kill you slowly." Bilbo ran back up the tunnel to the dwarves. But Smaug was very angry now. He breathed fire so hot that it came up the tunnel. The dwarves and Bilbo had to run deeper into the mountain to escape the flames. They found themselves in the old halls where the dwarves had lived long ago. Everything was covered in dust and broken. "This was once beautiful," said Thorin sadly. "This was my grandfather's home." While they were in the old halls, they heard a terrible noise from outside. Smaug had left the mountain. He was flying toward Lake Town. "He thinks the lakeman had us," said Bilbo. "He's going to attack them." From inside the mountain, they could see the fire in the sky as Smaug flew away. They found the main treasure room, the place where the dragon had been sleeping. Now they could see all the treasure clearly. There were thousands of gold coins, precious stones, and beautiful objects. But they were not happy. They were worried about the people of Lake Town. Also, how could they escape from the mountain? The dragon would come back. Smaug flew to Lake Town in terrible anger. The people saw him coming like a fire in the sky. "The dragon! The dragon!" they screamed. "Run! Run for your lives!" Smaug breathed fire on the wooden houses. The town began to burn. People jumped into the lake to escape the flames. "This is your reward for helping the dwarves," roared Smaug. But there was one man who did not run. His name was Bard. He was a great archer, someone who shoots arrows very well. Bard remembered the old stories about the dragon. An old thrush flew to him and spoke in his ear. The thrush had heard Bilbo talking about Smaug's weak spot. "Shoot for the hollow of the left breast," the bird seemed to say. Bard had one last arrow. It was a special arrow that had been passed down in his family. He aimed carefully at the spot where Smaug had no scales. The arrow flew straight and true. It hit Smaug in his weak spot, right through his heart. The great dragon fell from the sky into the lake. Smaug was dead. But most of Lake Town was destroyed. The people were homeless and cold. Many had lost everything in the fire. The dwarves promised to share the treasure, said the master of Lake Town. Now they must help us rebuild our town. The people of Lake Town began to travel toward the lonely mountain to ask for help. News of Smaug's death spread quickly. Many different groups began traveling toward the lonely mountain. The wood elves came, led by their king. They wanted some of the treasure because the dragon had stolen from them long ago. The lakemen came, led by Bard. They wanted help to rebuild their town. Even some evil creatures started coming, goblins and wild wolves, hoping to take treasure from the mountain. Inside the mountain, the dwarves knew that Smaug was dead. They were happy but also worried. "Everyone will want our treasure," said Thorin. Thorin began to change. The sight of so much gold made him greedy and suspicious. He didn't want to share any treasure with anyone. The dwarves blocked the main entrance to the mountain with stones and treasure. When Bard and the Elf King arrived, they asked to speak with Thorin. "We helped you," said Bard. "Now, please help us. My people have no homes." "The treasure is mine," said Thorin. "It belonged to my grandfather. I will not give you any of it." "But you promised," said Bard. Thorin would not listen. He sent a raven, a black bird, to call for help from other dwarves. The armies of elves and lakemen made camps around the mountain. They decided to wait. Perhaps hunger will make Thorin change his mind. Bilbo felt very uncomfortable about the situation. He thought Thorin was being unfair to the lakemen and elves. One night, Bilbo put on his ring and became invisible. He snuck out of the mountain and went to Bard's camp. "I want to help you," said Bilbo, appearing suddenly. Bard and the Elf King were surprised to see the Hobbit. "I have something that Thorin wants very much," said Bilbo. He showed them a large white jewel. It was the Arkenstone, the most precious treasure of the dwarves. "Thorin loves this stone more than gold," said Bilbo. "Maybe you can trade it for what you need." Bard was grateful. "You are honest and brave," he said. The Elf King offered to take Bilbo to safety, but Bilbo decided to go back to his friends. When Bilbo returned to the mountain, Thorin was very angry. "You are a traitor," shouted Thorin. "You stole from us!" But just then, Thorin's cousin Dain arrived with an army of dwarves from the Iron Hills. Now Thorin felt strong again. "Attack!" called Thorin. The dwarves, elves, and lakemen were about to fight each other, but suddenly something terrible happened. Just as the three armies were about to fight, a dark cloud appeared over the mountains. It was an army of goblins and wild wolves. The goblins had heard about Smaug's death. They wanted to take all the treasure for themselves. The goblins shouted Gandalf, who had suddenly appeared. "We must fight together, or we will all die." The elves, lakemen, and dwarves stopped fighting each other. They joined together to fight the goblins and wolves. This was called the Battle of Five Armies: goblins, wolves, elves, lakemen, and dwarves. The battle was terrible and fierce. The goblins had more soldiers, but the elves and dwarves were better fighters. Eagles came to help the good side. Bjorn also came in the shape of a great bear. He was very powerful in battle. Bilbo put on his ring and tried to stay safe, but during the fighting, a stone hit his head and he fell unconscious. When Bilbo woke up, the battle was over. The good side had won, but many had died. Gandalf was taking care of him. "You'll be fine," said the wizard, "but I have sad news." Thorin had been badly hurt in the battle. he was dying. Bilbo went to see Thorin before he died. Thorin was lying on a bed, very weak. "Forgive me, Bilbo," said Thorin. "I was wrong to be so greedy. You are braver than any warrior." "There is nothing to forgive," said Bilbo sadly. Thorin died peacefully. He was buried under the mountain with the Arkenstone on his chest. Dean became the new king under the mountain. He was fair and generous, unlike Thorin at the end. "You can have any treasure you want," Dean told Bilbo. But Bilbo only took a small amount of gold and silver. "I have a small house," he said. "I don't need much." Bart took gold to rebuild Lake Town. The Elf King took some treasure back to his forest kingdom. Everyone was satisfied. It was time to go home. Gandalf decided to travel with Bilbo. They went back through Mirkwood Forest, but this time they took a safer path. They stayed with the Elf King for a while. Then they visited Bjorn again. He was happy to see them and hear about their adventure. "The goblins will not trouble us for a long time," said Bjorn. "You have made the world safer." Bilbo and Gandalf continued their journey home. They traveled slowly because Bilbo was not in a hurry. The adventure had changed him. They came to the place where they had first met the trolls. The trolls were still there as stone statues. Some of the gold that Bilbo and the dwarves had hidden was still there too. "This belongs to you now," said Gandalf. When they reached the valley where Elrond lived, they stopped to rest again. Elrond was happy to see them and hear their story. "You have grown, Bilbo Baggins," said Elrond. "You are not the same hobbit who left home months ago." This was true, but Bilbo was braver now. He was more confident. He had learned that he could do difficult things. But he was also ready to go home. He missed his comfortable hobbit hole and his quiet life. Finally, they came to the hill where Bilbo's house was. Bilbo could see the green door and round windows of his home. "Home at last," said Bilbo happily. But when he got to his house, he found something surprising. Other hobbits were in Bilbo's house. They were selling his furniture and belongings. "Bilbo Baggins is dead," they said. "He disappeared months ago." "I'm not dead," said Bilbo. "This is my house." The hobbits were very surprised. They had to give back all his things. Most of the other hobbits in the area thought Bilbo had changed too much. Before his adventure, he was a very respectable hobbit who never did anything unusual. Now he was friends with wizards and elves. Sometimes dwarves came to visit him. He wrote poetry and drew maps of his adventure. "He's not respectable anymore," the other hobbits said. But Bilbo didn't care. He was happy with his life. He used some of his treasure to help poor people. He planted a beautiful garden. He wrote a book about his adventure. Many years later, Gandalf came to visit. "I hear we're writing a book," said Gandalf. "Yes," said Bilbo. "I'm calling it There and Back Again, a Hobbit's Holiday." "And are you happy with your quiet life again?" asked Gandalf. Bilbo thought about this. "Yes, I am happy," he said. "I am also glad I went on the adventure. It showed me that I was braver than I thought." "Adventures have that effect on people," said Gandalf with a smile. Bilbo lived happily for many more years. He was known as one of the most famous hobbits who ever lived. Children loved to hear the story of his great adventure. And sometimes on quiet evenings, Bilbo would look out his round window toward the mountains and remember his friends the dwarves, and the dragon and all the amazing things he had seen and done. He still had his magic ring safe in his pocket. But that is another story for another day.